Okay, so I think we are live. Great. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for, I think it's our 7th episode of Our Path Forward. And today we're talking about, the theme is justice, and we're talking about the state of immigration in the US. And we're also going to be talking with our civil rights attorney, Brianna O'Fray, about the launch of our Immigrant Rights Center. So I'm really excited to talk with her about that and also talk with our executive director, Imran Siddiqui. We also have Nejma Osman, who is our youth and advocacy coordinator, joining us today. So welcome everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we jump into kind of the more heavy stuff, I wanted to mention what we all have in our background here. So as you can probably see, we have virtual backgrounds, and this is for our annual Ramadan fundraiser, which is this Saturday at 3:30 p.m. And our special guest, well, I'm going to hand it over to Nejma. Nejma, can you tell us more about the event, who's going to be there, and why people should attend?
Yeah, thanks, Jess. So this Saturday, on the 1st at 3:30 p.m., we have our fundraiser, our annual Ramadan fundraiser. It's called Our Path Forward, Reflections on What's at Stake this Ramadan. We'll be talking about the work CAIR Washington has been doing over the past year, and how we've been growing our legal and policy teams, the launch of the Immigrant Rights Center, which I believe Brianna is going to talk about, introducing some new faces, as well as introducing board members, one of which, Nima Bolale, will be on speaking. So it's really exciting. We also have Aisha Prime, Sheikh Aisha Prime, who is just a world-renowned speaker and feminist and Islamic scholar. So we're really excited to have her, as well as one of our very own Uyghur rights activists, Aydin Anwar. So awesome lineup of wonderful speakers. So make sure you're RSVPing and you're signing up and registering, because it's only a few days away. It's on Saturday. So sign up, make sure you get your tickets, so you can be part of this wonderful event, and also learn more about the work that we're doing, as well as, just understanding what exactly we do and meeting the folks behind the work that we do, so that you can understand where your money is going, and what the work is funding. So yeah, make sure you do that. And the logo that we have on here kind of has more information. If you can't attend that, make sure that you do your best to share and spread the word to followers and friends, and yeah, just support our organization, because donations from you all is what keeps us going.
Thank you so much, Nejma. Yeah, I was thinking about, in this digital age, like there's so much online programming, and I see like Aish, is it Sheikha? I'm sorry. Is that who? Aisha Prime.
Yeah.
Aisha Prime, she's speaking at different events, and it's like, well, what is, you can tune into like all these events, most of them are free nowadays, and watch these awesome speakers, but what is different about this is that CAIR Washington, like this is your community here, like your local community, this is Washington State. So in addition to hearing these great speakers, really to me, like, as I was thinking about this, the most important thing is like, this is you connecting with CAIR Washington, with your community, and learning about what we're doing. Like there's a lot of changes happening. We're growing as a team, and there's just a lot of exciting stuff happening. Like it's an opportunity for you to know about your, Muslim civil rights organization in Washington State, how you can get involved, how you can support it. And I just think it's a great opportunity to learn about our team as well. So I'm really excited for it. This is my first, I think, big digital event since I've been back from maternity leave. So very excited for it. Katie, who is running our tech right now, Katie, could you put the link for the fundraiser registration page in the comments? And that way people can check it out that way. Cool. Thank you so much, Nejma. I know you're busy, so I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Okay, see ya. Great. Well, let's jump back into our regular programming. So really quick, I want to read a brief little description of Our Path Forward. So Our Path Forward is a weekly Facebook live show by CAIR Washington that gives viewers a behind-the-scenes look at the work that we do, and it invites viewers to join with us in reimagining what our path forward looks like in this post-Trump, soon to be, inshallah, post-COVID era. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the state of immigration in the US, especially now that the Biden administration has taken over, what's changed, what's still the same, and very excited to be talking about the launch of our Immigrant Rights Center. So to kick it all off, I'm going to go ahead and ask Brianna. First, Brianna, you want to introduce yourself really quick and then we'll jump into it?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Brianna O'Fray, and I am the Legal and Policy Manager at CAIR Washington, but I'm also our attorney, and I'm a trained immigration attorney, and that's really, one of my major passions. And so as we launch our Immigrant Rights Center, which we'll talk to you more about shortly, I'm really going to be transitioning in large part to leading that effort and really working with our immigrant community members and really leading that work.
Awesome, thank you, Brianna. So when we were writing the questions and talking about what we were going to discuss, you mentioned, the first thing we should probably do is define some of these words like immigrant versus refugee versus asylum seeker, because a lot of times these things get blurry, I know in my own brain. So could you start us off by just doing that, Brianna, kind of defining for us what these different terms mean and what kind of people they describe?
Absolutely. Immigration law is so broad and complex that it is really hard to keep them straight. So, when we're talking about immigrants, that's sort of the large umbrella term for anyone who is coming from another country, another nationality, and residing in our country. When we're talking about refugees and asylum seekers, I think that's where it gets really confusing for people, because asylum seekers are refugees. But the main difference there, both groups of people are people who are fleeing persecution from their governments on the basis of their political opinions, their race, their religion, their national origin, or their membership in a particular social group. And the big difference is that asylum seekers are people who are at our border or already in our country. So we're talking about people who are here in the US, or they are at our airports, or they're at, the physical border. And they are saying, I have a fear of returning home to my country. I'm going to be persecuted. I'm asking for the ability to stay here and find safety. That's an asylum seeker. When we talk about refugees for the purposes of talking about some of these policies, what we are talking about is that same type of person who has that same type of fear, but they are still in their country, or they're in another country. They're not in the US at this point. They might be in a camp somewhere. They might be, seeking refuge in a nearby country from their home country, but they still have that same fear of being able to return to their home country because they fear persecution. And what these people are doing is they are applying for resettlement in the United States. And the way our immigration law works is that there are a certain number of refugees, and this is separate from asylum seekers, but a certain number of refugees that we will accept into our country each year, and they're resettled by agencies. So they'll be coming directly from Syria or Lebanon or Jordan or Palestine. And they'll work with organizations that set them up with a direct home here in the United States, and then they have the ability to stay here. So it can get very, very confusing. And then there's a whole nother, classification of undocumented people that I think also kind of gets conflated with some of these terms. And an undocumented person is just someone who doesn't have a visa, doesn't have a green card, doesn't have some kind of legal permission to be in the United States and to stay here. So, you know, a person that is coming in at the border, they may be undocumented, they may not have a visa, they may also be an asylum seeker if they have a fear of returning home. So you can be, you know, multiple of these classifications at once. But when we're talking about the policies, it's really important to keep all of these classifications clear, because different rules apply to different classifications of immigrants. So I hope that helps a little bit. And as we talk about some of these policies and things that are happening right now in the state of immigration in our country, you know, I can try to clarify a little bit further what the different implications are.
No, that was super helpful, Brianna. Thank you. I think the way I always think about it, asylum seeker versus refugee is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a refugee is someone who is displaced. And an asylum seeker is someone who's actively trying to seek asylum in another country like the US. And asylum seekers are refugees.
Yeah, asylum seekers are refugees, but they are both displaced. They are both.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for that. I think that's really helpful. So I was wondering if you could, you know, there's so much going on, I feel like, with immigration, and does get confusing sometimes. And I think especially since Trump left, I feel like I'm wondering what's going on kind of with some of these things. You know, part of the Muslim ban was overturned, or most of it. The No Ban Act was passed recently. We still have this ongoing crisis at the border. So I'm just kind of confused, and I'm wondering if you can talk to our viewers about what has changed, if anything, in regard to asylum seekers at the border, unaccompanied minors, kind of all this stuff. What has changed and what is still the same?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, President Biden made a lot of promises during his campaign, and I think that's one of the things that's really coming up for a reckoning right now, is that, you know, we were given so many promises for major reform, for the overturning of harmful policies, and now we want to see the receipts. We want to see that happen. And, you know, some things are progressing, but other things, you know, we're seeing a little bit of a return to a status quo in the pre-Trump years. So, for example, you know, the Muslim ban. The Muslim ban was something that was a policy that was put in place by executive order from President Trump. That wasn't something that, you know, Congress passed a law and said it was going to be this. It was a unilateral decision. And so it was also within the unilateral decision of President Biden to revoke that decision. So on day one of his presidency, he did revoke that executive order. Where the complication comes in is that all of the people who were excluded from coming to the United States during the Trump administration because of that Muslim ban, many of them lost their opportunity.
That's right.
So, you know, if people had applied for a visa during that time and they were denied because they were from one of those majority Muslim countries that were banned, those people are not getting their money back. They're having to start the process over again. It takes years to apply for a visa and get to a point where you can have your family members come into the US legally. And those people are completely out their money, their effort, their time. And even beyond that, the other group of people that were really highly affected by you know, these decisions and what's happened are the visa lottery recipients. So we have a category of immigrants that are able to receive their visas by a lottery each year. And if your number is chosen, you have a certain period of time to grab your visa and come, you know, to put it pretty simply. And if your visa isn't available at the time that you're chosen for the lottery, you lose your opportunity. Well, because of the Muslim ban, their visa wasn't available at the time that they came up on the lottery. So, you know, if you had someone from Somalia who won that lottery during that time, they don't get their opportunity now that the order is overturned. They don't get that back. They're out. It's as if they never won. And that's a huge problem, because we have so many visa recipients, visa lottery recipients that didn't get their chance. And, you know, that's a huge injustice. So one of the things that we're looking at is, you know, first of all, with this No Ban Act, is creating an act of Congress, a law that says we're not going to allow this to happen again in the future. This is not something that should have ever been okay. And we're going to make sure that no other president can come in and do this by executive order. But in the meantime, there's still a lot of policy work that needs to be done to make sure that these people who are harmed by this policy are getting some kind of justice. You know, we want to see their applications pushed forward and fast tracked. We want to see their fees and fines waived. We want to make sure that these people who won their diversity lottery, that they get their visas and they get their chance to come here, because overturning the executive order didn't make the harm go away.
Thank you. That really helps me. It's, you know, it's funny because I do this work, but I'm also a new mom, but that really clarifies it for me, what the No Ban Act is about and how it's going to address, you know, the harm that's been done. And there's still families separated and people who,
Absolutely.
you know, maybe aren't going to get a second shot. So thank you, Brianna. Imran, I wanted to talk a bit about the refugee admissions cap with you. I was surprised, I think a lot of us were, that the Biden administration was keeping the refugee cap at what it had been under Trump, which was, you know, all-time historic low. And I think that they started to budge on this because of activists basically pushing them and human rights groups. You said to me, you know, that just because we have a new administration doesn't mean we're done, of course, like the work continues. Can you talk about where we're at right now with refugee admissions and how this issue in particular underlines the fact that these issues are in fact systemic?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something that's troubling for all of us, you know, just going back to the fact that we're living in the largest refugee crisis since World War II, and we need to really, I think, reframe these facts. We don't really think about the human aspect and the human toll of you know, what's happened with this whole sort of marginalization and criminalization of refugees, and how this country, which has been a haven for refugees throughout its history, is essentially just in the past, you know, 5 to 6 years completely turned its back upon them. This country is built by refugees, essentially. So yeah, I mean, the Biden administration, obviously, like, I think there was a lot of hope, like Brianna said, with repealing the Muslim ban. I think, you know, a lot of this is on a rhetorical level, on a emotional level. It's something that is extremely helpful for us to see an administration that was at least vowing to repeal that specific thing and to work on the refugee situation. But then sometimes things get put on the back burner, and we as advocates cannot be allowing this to be put on the back burner. We were on the front lines of advocating for increased refugee resettlement before Biden came into office. We were out there lobbying, you know, our Congress people and asking the Trump administration to raise these caps. Obviously, they didn't really do too much to do that, but we were still there. I was, you know, back when I was in Arizona, I was advocating with a group called We Are All America, which advocates for refugee resettlement as well. But even during this administration, Brianna and Najma took part in Refugee Lobby Day with the Refugee Council USA, which is a big deal. Like, I mean, if there aren't people within our communities and advocate groups that are out there like holding accountable this administration, it'll allow you to sort of rest on your laurels and allow things to just sort of sit there. Just give him some time, you know, let him, you know, have his first 100 days. You know, he's under a lot of pressure. There's a pandemic. But if you think about it, for a refugee, this is a matter of life and death. So for somebody who is leaving Syria, for example, who's, you know, escaping bombing attacks or, you know, from like barrel bombs or whatever it may be, like, this is a matter of life and death for them. They're freezing to death in these camps. My wife went to Jordan and has visited some of these refugee camps. They're literally sleeping like on rocks and like scorpions crawling on them at nighttime. Like, this is a matter of life and death for each and every individual who is prevented from entering this country. So when we view them as human beings, then there's more likelihood that people are going to like be out there like advocating. That's why you saw such a outpouring after the Muslim ban, with people showing up at airports. We need that same energy even during the Biden administration.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. I think I always think about that. Do you guys remember that picture of that kid that was on the beach? They washed up on, he was like 3 years old, and
Island Purdy, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, people forget these are real human beings. I think it's about half of internationally displaced persons are children.
Mm-hmm.
And, Imran, like you said, this is urgent. It might not be urgent for the Biden administration, I don't know, but it is urgent for these people that are refugees. And I get frustrated because I hear people say, well, why, other countries aren't taking their fair share. Why do we have to da-da-da? And it's like, I don't care if these are refugees that we partially had a role in, displacing them or not. We should do this because they're human beings. I don't care if the rest of the world closes its doors. That means we need to open our doors even more. And
Yes,
it's a really hard issue for me to think about. Like, it is, there are a lot of issues and challenges in the US, but this specific issue of turning our back on the greatest refugee crisis since World War II, and these millions of people and children, is so shameful to me. And I just think that we, like you said, we really need to bring that same energy under any administration while this is going on.
well, and like you both just said, it can be easy to say, oh, it's only his first 100 days, they plan on getting to it. But I just read that between the date that the Biden administration announced that they were going to raise the cap, and now, where they still had not done that, they said, oh, we'll get to it May 13th. We're getting to it. We promise we'll do it. They've already had to cancel and turn around over 500 resettlement flights that were bound for the US, that were already vetted, they were already prepared. These people were finally getting to seek safety, and they were canceled, they were turned around. And like Imran said, every single day that these people are not given shelter is another day that their lives are at risk. It is a real issue. It's not just, we'll get to it. That's
right.
Not enough.
Yeah. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about something hopeful, something that we're doing, at least here in Washington State, to help with immigration challenges. Our Immigrant Rights Center. So this is something that we fundraised for last Ramadan. I'm really excited that we were able to raise the funds and that we've been able to build this team up, and that we're going to be launching the CAIR-Washington Immigrant Rights Center this summer. So Brianna, can you tell us what is the Immigrant Rights Center and what sort of services are we going to be offering?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited about this project. This project is honestly why I came to CAIR-Washington. Is, I was told that we had such an incredibly huge need for immigration services in Washington State. Almost a third of our population is either an immigrant or a first generation family member of an immigrant. And those numbers are even higher within the Muslim community. And like I mentioned earlier, immigration is my passion. So the fact that CAIR-Washington was setting out to create this specific Immigrant Rights Center, which will work both on the legal services side of immigration and on the policy and advocacy side of the immigration debate, is just huge for me. I think that's incredible. What we're going to be providing help with is family-based and tourist visa applications. We are going to be assisting with asylum applications, which is really where my absolute heart lies in this legal work, because again, refugees, asylum seekers, there's nobody that needs the help more. And I think that we should all be doing everything that we can to helping people find safety. So I'm so happy that we're going to be helping asylum seekers. We're going to be doing status adjustments and helping people with citizenship applications and delays. You know, one of the major issues that exists for a lot of people in our community is that they've applied, they've done everything, they've put in their paperwork, they've paid all their money, and now they've sat there for years waiting for answers. That's not okay. The government has to give them answers, and we're going to push them to do that, you know, even if it means that we have to sue USCIS to get you an answer on your application. That's what we have the power to do. So we are going to be representing people in immigration interview prep and during their actual interviews. We'll help with translation. And also another huge thing that we'll be doing is really addressing travel issues, which goes so hand in hand with immigration issues for so many people, even US citizens. So I'm so excited about being able to increase our capacity to really focus on this work, because immigration cases make up about a quarter of all of the legal intakes that we receive, the requests that we receive for help. And, you know, I'm certain that once it becomes, you know, well known in the community that we're providing high quality, free immigration legal services, that, you know, those numbers are going to go up even higher, because there's such a need for it in our community. And, you know, to be able to provide that expertise to anyone of any income level, I think is huge. It's really, really unique. And to be able to do it with a team that has the cultural competence to understand the really specific issues that affect Muslim immigrants and their applications, there's nothing like it right now.
Yeah, awesome, Brianna. Thank you for that overview. Imran, like Brianna mentioned, you know, I think almost a quarter of our cases in 2020 were related to immigration and travel. So we've been doing this work, but now we actually have a dedicated team and dedicated resources to create this center. Can you talk about, Imran, from your perspective, why we saw a need to create a specific immigrant rights center?
Yeah, I mean, just to take a step back, I think for our community members, you can also, you know, pat yourself on the back, because this is truly the evolution of CAIR Washington. A few years ago, we hired our first attorney in the state, and having one attorney is one thing. It's very difficult to have just one person plugging up, you know, all of these cases for an entire state. But we've evolved, we've continued to grow, we've continued to mature as an organization. And as you all mentioned, like a quarter of our cases are immigration related. So it's definitely a need that exists within the community. So seeing that evolution, like my predecessor here, like he helped lay the framework, and I'm here to make sure that we complete that promise and to make sure that we hire that second attorney for our staff as well. So this is a great accomplishment by the Washington State Muslim community to really grow and nurture their organization. So I just want to say that first and foremost. But yeah, like, I mean, as you said, a large portion of our community come from these immigrant backgrounds. They've resettled here as refugees. You know, this is a truly diverse community, and that's reflected in these case numbers as well. And just to take a deeper look at this, like, I think a lot of times people see CAIR and they see us as we're out there like in the headlines or in the newspaper, and we're sort of just like, you know, doing these press conferences and everything. But a lot of the times we're doing this work that's behind the scenes that is, you're not seeing, you know, that's not like the sort of pretty work, or, you know, that is just grabbing all the headlines. We're doing like this really meaningful, and I would say 75-80% of the work is that behind the scenes type stuff that is really, you know, helping people with their immigration cases or their civil rights cases. So just doing this is not something that maybe you're gonna like see on a day-to-day basis in the news, but this is going to be providing a huge service for those members of the community that don't have an ability to hire an immigration lawyer. You know, like I talk about, what does it cost? You know, I know people that have gone out there and hired immigration attorneys for their delays and whatnot, and it's been extremely expensive undertaking. Not everybody can afford a lawyer. And with CAIR Washington, we're providing that free service. You know, many people in our community are not able to afford $500, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 fees for these types of cases. So just having a resource here where we can do some of this work is going to just take things to the next level and provide this great service. And we are the only Muslim organization in the state of Washington that is providing these free legal direct services to our community members. And we should always take pride and remember that, because yes, there's other national organizations that are out there, but they're not providing direct legal services to our community in the state. Only CAIR Washington is the Muslim organization that is doing it. And now we're doubling our, you know, attorney headcount here in this organization. So we're taking seriously what the future of this organization looks like to become this long-lasting resource for the community.
Yeah, thank you, Imran. I think it's like there are these other organizations who are awesome. NERP, you know, we work with NERP, there's ACLU, but not only is this going to be a dedicated resource and center for the Muslim community, the need is so great, you know. I know sometimes people get turned away from these other nonprofits or organizations because the need is so great. So it's really awesome to be able to increase that capacity in Washington State and provide a resource that is specific for the Muslim community. Brianna, I know immigration is an issue that you are personally passionate about and that you're right now actually dealing with. Can you talk a bit about what you and your husband are going through and how that has informed you on these issues?
Yeah. Well, I would say the first thing I want to say is that there's nothing special about our case. There's nothing, you know, that makes ours any harder than anyone else's. But really, that's almost the issue, is that, you know, taking a step back, you know, my husband is an immigrant from France. He was already here, working here on a visa at the time that I met him. And you know, when we decided that we wanted to spend our lives together and you know, settle here in the US, we knew that we were going to need to be able to find a way to make that permanent. And so, you know, once we were married, we set out to get his green card, like many of you have this experience. And the difficulties of that process are the exact same difficulties that so many of you have experienced. You know, it's complicated. First of all, I'm an immigration attorney. I specially trained in this. And, you know, it is so difficult to understand what you need to do to get through this process, even with an attorney, even, you know, with these incredible resources. It's a long, arduous process, and it's really expensive. And what I think is missing from so much of the discourse around immigration that people don't tend to understand unless they're going through it is that you can do everything right. You can get in line the way that people say. You can, you know, follow every law. You can file every application. You can pay every fee. You can do it exactly the way you're supposed to. And it can still take years and years for you to get the permission to be here with your family members. It can take years to get the right permissions to be able to work here. That's what my husband and I are struggling with right now. Is his former work visa expired while we are waiting to get this family-based visa. And in the meantime, they've told him he can't work. They said, you know, you can stay here. You've done everything right. You've filed all the right paperwork. You've paid your fees. So we're not going to deport you. You can stay here while we wait to make a decision, but you're not allowed to work. You're not allowed to go back to France to work. You're not allowed to go to any other country to work. You need to stay here and just, you know, provide for yourself without the ability to be employed. Well, who has the ability to do that except for the already extremely wealthy? which more often than not is not the people who are applying for these benefits. You know, the average person can't afford to just wait months and years without the ability to work while they wait for their paperwork to process, you know. And with COVID, those already extremely ridiculous backlogs have just gotten longer and more excessive. And, you know, we fully expect that my husband will be out of work for more than a year before they just read his application. And, you know, even then it takes so long to get things approved. And one of the things that strikes me so much, and I have such an incredible appreciation for because we're going through this, is the fact that unless you have specific expert help that is also culturally competent in your culture, your relationship, your family dynamics, in order to create an application that accounts for all of the specificities of the way that you dated, the way that you got married, the circumstances of your family and you know, where you live, that sort of thing, you could go through all of that, those years, all the money, and then still have your application denied for a completely arbitrary reason, because someone in the US government said, well, you know what, the way that you courted doesn't look like the way me and my husband courted, so I'm going to call that an invalid marriage. I don't get that whole, you know, Islamic mating courtship ritual. I'm going to say that's invalid. That's fraud. So it's such a biased system. There's so many inequities.
Brianna, sorry to interrupt, but you know, you and I have talked, it's like, you guys are both white. He's a European immigrant, and it's hard to impossible for you guys to, and you're an immigration attorney.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have incredible privilege, like unbelievable privilege in this process. The fact that we both speak English, the fact that we're both white, the fact that he's from, you know, a rich European country. There are so many factors here that give us, you know, such incredible privilege, and it's still just an awful situation. So the fact that they expect low-income people who don't speak English, who are from different cultures and have no background in our legal systems, to be able to navigate this themselves and do it right off the bat when there's so much at stake is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So, you know, while we are working on the policy side to try to create, you know, significant reform of this system to account for the wide variety of people who are applying to live in this country. In the meantime, it's also really important that we provide those very, very specific services to account for the way that the system is right now. You know, as an immigration attorney that specifically caters to the Muslim community, I'm able to draft these visa applications in a way that explains the cultural rituals and, you know, specificities that exist in, say, a Muslim marriage that might differ from, you know, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant marriage, and account for that on the front end so that people aren't having the legitimacy of their relationships questioned, so that they're not losing this time and this money. And, you know, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the effect that an immigration status can have in someone's life. You know, it's everything. It's your safety, your ability to be with your family, it's your livelihood. It's the ability to put down roots, start a family. It's everything. And, you know, if anything, my experience going through the process with my husband has only made me appreciate it even more when I'm working with my legal clients, and it makes me want to fight that much harder, because I understand what an uphill battle it is and how hard it is to go through.
Thank you for sharing that, Brianna. You all can't see because of my virtual background, but Robel just came in the room with Ezra to change my baby's diaper, so you're going to hear some baby noises in the background. And as you were talking, Brianna, I was like, Clement needs to get one of those under the table jobs. Have him call Robel. No, I'm just joking.
No, but that's one of the things that's so hard because, you know, he probably could, but if anyone were to find out, that would put
Right.
everything in jeopardy.
Right,
And,
right,
you know,
right.
again, my husband is white, he's French, you know, he probably wouldn't get in that much trouble. But if the same person from Somalia, you know, decided that they couldn't get by and needed to do something under the table, I guarantee that if that were found out, that person would be detained, that
Yeah.
person would be deported. It,
They throw the books at him.
there's no flexibility, there's no understanding, there's, you know, so again, I recognize that we are in such a privileged position that so many people aren't. It's
Yeah. It's
very
funny
hard.
because, yeah, it's funny because Washington State, specifically Seattle, but also Washington State, like we're a pretty progressive state, you know, we're a sanctuary state. And we usually rank in the top 10 historically for refugee resettlements, but we still have, you know, community members in our state who are suffering mostly due to these national policies. We also have detention centers in our state. I know you were talking with me about the Tacoma Detention Center. There's been a lot going on with that lately. Can you just kind of tell us what's been going on and what the fight is against that detention facility?
Yeah, the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma is a privately run for-profit detention center that is used by ICE to detain individuals who are undocumented, individuals who are legal immigrants, but who might be removable for a reason. Removable is the legal term for like deportable. You know, maybe they got a DUI, maybe they, you know, served some time for a minor crime. Well, you know, that can make somebody lose their immigration status. So they might be detained for that reason while they're waiting to be deported. But, you know, one of the most horrific things that this detention center is used for is to house asylum seekers. And again, in case I didn't make it clear earlier, it is legal to seek asylum. You have a right to seek asylum in this country. You don't have to have status. You don't have to have a visa. You can come into this country by fraud. You can fake a passport to get onto our soil to claim asylum. And that's okay. That's not against the law. You're not doing anything wrong. And yet asylum seekers are being detained for up to a year, sometimes even longer, while they're waiting for their cases to be adjudicated. And in the meantime, they're being treated like prisoners. And, you know, specifically in this Northwest Detention Center, the circumstances are just, they're horrible. It's an incredibly abusive environment. You know, the detainees there have waged multiple hunger strikes over the years. You know, individuals have died in this detention center. And so immigration advocates have been working for years to try to get this place shut down because, you know, again, it's a private for-profit facility. So there is an interest in detaining as many people as possible. They're trying to, you know, they've been trying to expand the number of beds that they have in this facility and expand their contract with the state. And, you know, immigration rights advocates have just been tireless in their work to get this place shut down. And this year, the reason that this has been so in the news recently in Washington State is that an incredible bill, HB 1090, passed both houses and was just signed into law by Governor Inslee, which bans private for-profit prisons and detention centers, including the Northwest Detention Center, and is finally going to close this facility, which is just, like, I have goosebumps. It is just the most incredible victory. And, you know, this facility still has a contract for another 5 years, so it's not going to be something we see immediately, but, you know, they're not going to extend it and they're going to start to phase it out. But in the meantime, you know, one of the things that's so frustrating is that individuals are still being moved into this facility. They're still being housed there. Just this week, we got news that another 67 asylum seekers were being moved to this facility. after this bill passed and after they had a huge rash of COVID outbreaks.
Mhm.
You know, the conditions in this place are just terrible. So, you know, we definitely want to pause for a moment and acknowledge the incredible victory of this bill. But at the same time, you know, the work continues. People are still suffering. So, you know, we're still advocating that Governor Inslee take executive action to release the people being detained there and to, you know, stop working with ICE. It's a very bittersweet victory. It's a success, but there's still just so much left to be done.
Right. Still a lot of work to be done. Thank you, Brianna, for explaining all that. I knew a little bit about it, but you've connected the pieces for me. Before we go back to our Immigrant Rights Center, Brianna, if people are facing immigration or travel issues or know someone that is, how should they contact us?
Yeah, I would say the easiest way is through our website. That's www.CAIR-WA.org. I believe Katie can put that. Oh yeah, well, we've all got it on our backgrounds there. But I'm sure Katie can also put that in the comments for us. We have an online intake form on our website, and there you can give a little bit of information about, you know, what your situation is and what you're looking for, and then our legal team will be in touch, and we'll do a full intake with you. We'll find out, you know, what your issue is. You know, even if you're not entirely sure what it is that you'll need, our legal team can identify that for you, and we'll get you hooked up.
Awesome. Thank you, Brianna. Before we go, any final thoughts, comments? Talking about Saturday's fundraiser, I don't know, anything?
Yeah, just for those who are watching, definitely join us Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's going to be a great event. It's called Our Path Forward, What's at Stake This Ramadan. You're going to hear from a bunch of our team members, a lot of new faces from the staff and the board who you may have not have seen yet. And then you'll hear from Sheikha Aisha Prime. It's one of the best speakers in the Muslim community across the US as well. And it's just like a good opportunity during these last 10 nights of Ramadan, like we're getting there in this little home stretch. So it's a good opportunity to sort of recharge as we get into that home stretch. And of course, it's an opportunity to support our work as well. You see the importance of what Brianna and the legal team are doing. So definitely support our work. You can do that by clicking to our website, following these QR codes that are up on our screen here as well. So thank you so much, Jess, for hosting this today, and Brianna for outlining this.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. Thank you both. Want to plug next week's Our Path Forward before we go. It'll still be during Ramadan, so it's our last Ramadan Our Path Forward. And the theme for next week is service. And I'm super excited because we're going to have all of our team members on, and we're each going to be talking about what service means to us and why we do the work that we do, and sharing some of our personal stories around what led us to CAIR Washington, what led us to do this work. So I'm very excited for that. And our question of the week, and we will share this in the comments and on our social media, our question of the week is, what does service mean to you? That's a wide open question. I would love to hear people's thoughts on what service means to them, and we will share your answers during next week's Our Path Forward. So Brianna, Imran, thank you both so much, and I will see you on Zoom again.
Thanks, Jess.
All right.